Maybe you've heard ChatGPT is out and AutoGPT is in, that AutoGPT is going to replace your assistant or your job, but I'm here to show you what AutoGPT can do and can't do by going through an example of building an AI newsletter with no human intervention. So we can start by checking out the AutoGPT repository on GitHub. I'm not necessarily going to read through all of this, but I will hit the main points. If you open up Setup, it will bring you over to their documentation. The easiest setup is to use a Docker container. If you're unfamiliar with Docker, I'll let GPT-4 explain what that is for me. In short, a Docker container holds all the ingredients to run an application, regardless of the operating system. If you don't have Docker, you will need to download it on your computer, and then pull down the AutoGPT container. Next, we can move on to setting up billing. Because AutoGPT relies on OpenAI, you will need a credit card to access their API. We'll use this key in a bit. I found their documentation a little confusing, but once you set up Docker, you still need to clone the repository. Now we can use the OpenAI key we set up and save it in a .env file. Finally, we're ready to run AutoGPT with Docker Compose. If you've read through all the documentation and still have questions, there's also a Discord group where they have additional resources, frequently asked questions, and development updates. There are some other cool things you can do, like setting up your own voice for text-to-speech, using Pinecone as a vector database for memory, or setting up a text-to-image model like DALL-E. So what is actually unique about AutoGPT? Well, unlike ChatGPT, it can help you plan out multiple steps when you provide it with a goal. In my case, I wanted to create a newsletter about the newest AI updates within the last week. Then it provides its thoughts, some reasoning, a plan of steps, some criticism for itself, and the next action it wants to take. The commands are unique because they could do things like searching with Google, browsing a website, getting a summary text on a page, or even getting the hyperlinks to navigate the web. So after it presents you with a command, you can choose to accept with Y, quit with N, or provide feedback like you do with ChatGPT. Something like, make sure the news is not well publicized, and it will update its plan based on your feedback. Or if you really trust AutoGPT, you can run yes continuously by entering Y-5 or whatever number you want to use just to run the next 5 steps. Although I don't suggest this because it will prevent you from providing feedback and it can be very costly. So what was the end result? Well, AutoGPT doesn't really have good intuition. It tried to summarize thumbnails of articles on Science Daily and MIT News instead of actually finding the full articles. When I asked it to provide URLs of each article, it hallucinated the links, which didn't lead to anything. It even tried to summarize a 404 page as if it was an article. It wasn't good at making sophisticated search or refining its search like we usually do as humans on Google. It also didn't use time filters like finding articles in the past week. I will admit it cleverly tried to scrape some of the pages, but it wasn't able to execute the Python code because it couldn't figure out how to install the packages. I went through this cycle over a dozen times to see if better prompts, better feedback, or more concise instructions would help. In the end, it was quite difficult to steer AutoGPT to do what I asked. Even with lots of hand-holding, there are still so many pitfalls for AI to fail from. To be fair to the authors, they do classify AutoGPT as an experiment and even wrote their own article on its limitations. I do still believe this is the beginning and will only get better, but when it comes down to can AutoGPT create a newsletter without human intervention, in the words of Mythbusters, I have to give it busted. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you have any thoughts on what I should build next, please leave a comment as I'm always looking for more ideas.